Welcome. This is the last module for this subject. What is it called? Metrics that matter. What we study in this? We study click-through rate, watch time, retention, and emotional resonance. These are the metrics that we are going to study. We are going to talk about metrics, which is actually very simple thing. But we are not going to talk about, vanity metrics. How much am I known? No. We are going to look into statistical metrics. So what are you going to talk about in this metrics is actually the total impact of what you are doing on the media. In a narrative-driven marketing, especially particularly in the digital media, brand storytelling or leadership communication, 4 metrics often reveal whether the narrative or the story that you are telling has worked or not. 1. Click-through rate, which is more commonly known as CTR. Watch time. The third one is retention. And the fourth one is emotional resonance. Remember, these are not just technical indicators. They are actually behavioral evidence of the meaning that they are talking about. Let's learn each one of them one by one. What is a click-through rate? CTR is actually the curiosity trigger. CTR measures one basic thing. Did the audience move? It is the percentage of people who saw something in an ad or a thumbnail or a link and chose to click. Just click that button. CTR is not about conversion. It is simply about curiosity. Let us say if 100,000 people see your brand film thumbnail, but only 0.2% click it, then we have to understand that the storytelling entry point is pretty weak. Now let's consider a luxury campaign on an YouTube. Let's say when a brand like Dior releases a cinematic teaser for a collection, the thumbnail, the title, and the opening hook determine the CTR. The audience decides within second, is this worth my attention? Then what is actually happening? CTR is affected by headline clarity. What's there in the thumbnail? The value of the promise and the emotional intrigue that it brings together. Let's take hypothetical 2 campaign titles. Let's say one is called Spring Collection 2026 and the other one is called The Night We Redefined Elegance. Question to you learners, which one triggers curiosity? CTR reflects narrative framing power. But here's the critical insight. High CTR without a high retention means your hook overpromised but underdelivered. So CTR, the click-through rate, is the door. It's not the entire house. It's just the opening to your program. Okay? The next one is the watch time. What does a watch time mean? It shows the depth of involvement. Watch time measures how long do people stay on your program. Not how many clicked, but how long they cared to stay there. Platforms like YouTube prioritize watch time because it signals engagement quality. In storytelling terms, watch time measures narrative immersion. Did we really like the story? Example, If your 4-minute brand film has an average watch time of, let us say, 3 minutes and 20 seconds, you have got a very strong narrative holding power. But if the viewers start dropping off after 15 seconds, that means your opening has failed. Let's take an example. A craftsmanship documentary about Rolex, the watches, that retains 75 to 80% of the viewers indicates emotional immersion in heritage storytelling. Now here is the strategic difference. CTR measures surface interest. Just click and enter. But watch time measures sustained attention. Sustained attention actually is the pathway to trust building. In leadership communication, if employees stay through a 12-minute internal vision video rather than clicking away at minute 2, it clearly signals clarity and alignment of leadership vision with his people. Watch time answers this question. Did your story deserve their time? Let us now come to part 3, retention, the structure test. What is a structure test? Retention goes a little more deeper. Retention is about where people are dropping off. It shows narrative weakness. You may have a strong watch time overall, but retention graph actually and precisely points out the friction points. Let's take, for example, a TED-style talk video. At minute 4, suddenly retention drops sharply. That means people are moving away from that talk. Why? Is the question that should come to our minds. The possible reasons could be too much of data in the background screen, or there is no emotional hook, or the explanation is too long and the story tension has diluted. People move away. Retention analysis is storytelling diagnosis. Netflix uses retention to understand how to pace their episodes. Brands use retention to refine their advertisements editing. Educators use retention to improve lecture quality. If 60% of viewers leave at the same time stamp, that means at that particular time, that moment definitely requires redesign. Retention tells you where did the meaning collapse. Particularly in luxury storytelling or in brand storytelling, retention often drops when storytelling shifts from emotion to aggressive selling. In investor pitches, retention drops when founders move from clear narrative to jargon-heavy slides. Retention measures structural discipline. How clear are you in your talk? The fourth point that I was mentioning is emotional resonance. It is the invisible multiplier. Invisible, mind it. Unlike CTR, click-through rate or watch time, it cannot always be measured by numbers. But we see emotional resonance through the signals. What are the signals? Let us say the comments that we write after seeing something. Or if we like something, we share it forward. If we like it even better, we save it. Or we do just a mention. We can do sentiment analysis. And finally, we can do a brand recall. So let us say if a viewer comment is, "This gives me goosebumps. This reminded me of my father. I have watched this multiple times." Then it is resonance, because the viewer is coming back to the story again and again. For example, Nike's emotionally driven campaigns generate emotional commentary, not just product inquiries.
If we show emotion, we're called dramatic. If we want to play against men, we're nuts. And if we dream of equal opportunity, delusional. When we stand for something, we're unhinged.
It's Super, it's gonna need to calm down.
When we're too good, there's something wrong with us. And if we get angry, we're hysterical, irrational, or just being crazy. But a woman running a marathon was crazy.
Officials tried to pull her off the course.
A woman boxing was crazy. A woman dunking? Crazy. Coaching an NBA team? Crazy. A woman competing in a hijab, changing her sport, landing a double cork 1080, or winning 23 Grand Slams, having a baby, and then coming back for more? Crazy, 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 and crazy. So if they want to call you crazy, fine. Show them what crazy can do.
In leadership communication, resonance appears when employees repeat key phrases from a speech.
Leadership is not a rank. Leadership is not a position. Leadership is a decision. Leadership is a choice. It has nothing to do with your position in the organization. If you decide to look after the person to the left of you and look after the person to the right of you, you have become a leader.
Remember, in our earlier module, we spoke about Steve Jobs. Stay hungry, stay foolish. This is emotional resonance. This became repeatable language. Emotional resonance predicts long-term brand memory. Without resonance, metrics also becomes just transactional. But with resonance, metrics compound their meaning. Question is, how do I integrate these four important things? We need to connect all these four things. What did we say? CTR is equivalent to curiosity. Watch time is equivalent to immersion. Retention is structural design, the structural strength of your narrative. Emotional resonance is when I understand the meaning. So for example, if you have got a high CTR but low watch time, then it's a clickbait. You just click and you come out. Whereas if you've got a high watch time, low resonance, it becomes informative, but it is forgettable. Whereas if you have high resonance, but very low CTR, that means it's a very powerful story, but the entry point is very weak. So most of the good and strong campaigns try to align all these four. For example, so that the click rate is high, they create a hook. The opening needs to be very strong so that they retain the person. The structure in the middle is so very well designed that it retains the person. There is no drop off. And finally, the emotional storytelling creates resonance. Now, when we do all these four things together, then it becomes storytelling engineering. Because somebody has to think through all of these four. Before I close this, remember, metrics are not enemies of creativity. That's a wrong thinking. They are mirrors of the meaning of the narrative. If CTR is low, your promise is unclear. If your watch time is low, your narrative is weak. If your retention drops, your structure definitely requires discipline. If resonance is absent, your story lacks emotional truth. In digital storytelling, emotion is not the opposite of analytics. Emotion is validated through analytics. And the most powerful communicators understand this very fact. Data can show behavior, but behavior reveals attention. Attention reveals the meaning. That is why metrics matter. Not because they look good on dashboards on the CMO's office, but because they show whether your story lived or it just merely appeared and vanished. So metrics is extremely important for creative storytelling, for us to understand whether the narrative is actually appealing to our listeners and viewers. These four nuggets need to be played and balanced beautifully such that our narrative is exemplary. Till I meet in the next video.